Welcome, Christian. It's our pleasure to have you at BI.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Referral programs are a very important tool for managers. Nowadays, many companies are using referral programs. Can you tell us something about your research and on referral programs?
Yeah, of course. So maybe the first thing that is interesting is to understand what referral programs really are, right? So there's lots of confusing terms in this area. So if we talk about referral reward programs, we're talking about programs that are actively managed by the company, trying to stimulate word of mouth of existing customers and rewarding them for, bringing in a new lead or bringing in a new customer who converts into, a subscription or, purchase of a product. And so that sort of differentiates it from, typical viral marketing or multi-level marketing or organic word of mouth, where there is no incentive from the company's side.
Many companies see this tool, loyalty programs in general, as a very important tool for generating revenues. Mm-hmm. Right? Do you believe there are also some negative sides, something that managers should be careful about?
Absolutely. So if you think about referral programs, so on the surface, it's a very efficient tool because it's a pay for performance, right? You only get a reward once you provide a lead or you convert a customer. Now, while this is very efficient, there is the risk that you basically reward leads or customers that have occurred anyway, right? So you basically have the situation that customers have already decided to subscribe to a service and then ask afterwards, is someone already a customer, so that they can basically do what we call gift grabbing of sorts, so to share a reward or to get rewarded for something they would have done anyway. And that's very difficult to measure, but sort of the estimations are that depending on the program design and the industry, that can be up to 30, 40, 50, sometimes even 70% of all the rewards you hand out that are basically wasted in that regard.
Many companies are saying that we have to have a loyalty program, that we have to have a referral program because all our competitors have. What you're saying is that it's also a tricky balance to find for companies.
Absolutely. So what we see is that many have, right? So if you Google that, you find I think 300 million hits on recommendations and refer a friend and stuff, and many of the biggest brands online as offline have. The problem is that you have to look at certain circumstances where it is really efficient. So what we find in research is that if you have a somewhat weaker brand, so if you're just establishing yourself in the market, you just started, then it's more efficient. It's also more efficient if you have customers who may want to activate what we call weak ties. So people that they don't perfectly know, not a family member or a very close friend, but where you need this extra reward to get this referral going and get this little extra bit you need to actually recommend the service. In these two settings, it's very efficient. But if you're more down the road, if you're already very established, then it may be just sort of either a waste or it's just sort of kind of a hidden discount, right? You do it and people take it, because everyone does it. And you can see this with many companies, for example, in the online sphere, like when Amazon started Prime, they did a lot of stuff in referrals, but once that established, they sort of toned down the program because it's not efficient then anymore.
Many of us as consumers are very often thinking whether it would be weird to approach your friend and offer your friend some service or some subscription and get something back for that. In your research, have you found those effects as well?
Yeah, that's actually one of the key challenges you have with reward programs, because in a way it's word of mouth, but word of mouth has as a basis that you don't have a commercial interest, you don't have any reward, monetary reward for what you're doing. That makes it so powerful because there is just the assumption of altruism, that you are really into the well-being of the receiver. Now there is a reward, then you could be perceived as someone who's doing that just for the coffee maker or for the voucher or something. That's what we call sort of meta perceptions, that you think of how would it be perceived by the target of my referral. And you don't want to be perceived as someone who's selling out, right? Who's selling out for a voucher, a address, or a relationship to have someone. So it's very important for companies to avoid this. How can you do this? You should establish programs where you basically share rewards, so where both sides are in a win-win position. So it's not just you winning, it's also the other one gaining. You should also look more into, particularly if you are a more weaker brand, into what we call in-kind rewards, so not cash, but more like a voucher or, some sample of the product, because that sort of, confirms that you believe in the product. Because a voucher, like airtime or for some service, is of no value if it's not a quality product. And it's also doesn't have this smell of, being bribed or getting cash. And what's also important is that you have this kind of a balanced atmosphere, that you look into the relationship between the individuals, and in a strong tie setting, so for a family member or for whatever, your spouse, nobody would have the suspicion you would sell out. But in a weak tie, that might be more the situation. If people you rarely know, they might be a bit more suspicious if you get this reward. So particularly in these settings, as a company, you have to be aware of this and work against it.
Your work has many implications that are important for managers. Can you highlight some of the most important implications of your work?
So, in general, a reward program can be very helpful, very profitable for companies. So research shows that, if we look at the sender side, we see a significant decrease in churn rates and an increase in revenues. And that makes sense, because if you refer a product, it would look stupid, right, if you then walk away, right? You refer to friends and then you walk away yourself. You can't do this. So we see these churn rates go down significantly. What we also see is that, people referring bring in oftentimes customers that have a better fit to the product itself or the service, because they know them better. But that won't work particularly well for customers that are good customers. So the kind of rule of thumb is, good customers bring in good customers, bad customers bring in bad customers. So you would rather want to target to these good customer audiences your marketing. And you also have to consider, you have to at least run some checks on, what we call referral scrounging. So is it really a expansion of the market, or is it just sort of you're replacing organic word of mouth with referral? And that can be tricky. And you also need, of course, because there's sometimes money involved, there are premiums and rewards involved, so you need some protection against fraud. So you have to make, for example, minimum contract durations, the payout date and stuff like that has to be checked. Also whether people live in the same household, because it's there can always be the risk of fraud that you need to avoid. But if you manage that, very powerful tool with very good applications on your bottom line.
Thank you very much.